I'm excited to welcome Richard Willder, who's Global Head of Regulatory Policy at Uber. Feel free to come up, guys. And then Sergei Kirillov, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Avride.
What do you think?
I think three of us next to each other. So thank you everyone for joining, and if you're over on the south lot and wondering where this voice is coming from, just walk down the sidewalk a little ways north, and we're over here in the nice air-conditioned warehouse, and we've got a few power misters coming in a bit, hopefully, so it'll be nice and cool out there. I'm excited to get into this fireside chat, though. So before we dig in, Richard and Serge, I'd love to hear just a little bit from you on what you're working on at Uber, what you're excited about, and kind of give us a quick lay of the land for this fireside.
Yeah, absolutely, and a big thank you for having me, to Harry, Jonah, and the entire team. It's so exciting to be here. And I wanted to just kind of share a little bit. Obviously, Uber is very excited about the future of autonomous technology and the opportunity that it's going to bring to the marketplace. I think what I wanted to share a little bit about, not so much the excitement about the future of autonomous technology. You're going to hear a tremendous amount about that over the next couple of days from a whole lot of people, but a little bit more about how we as Uber see this unfolding in the marketplace and our role. And our role's definitely changed in the industry, and we are now laser focused on a singular goal, which is building the best platform in the world for tech developers to deploy their autonomous technology on the Uber platform. And what that means is we end up in a place with a hybrid model where AVs are slowly integrated into our existing model alongside traditional rideshare drivers and couriers. And there are tremendous benefits of this approach that I'll touch on in a second. But what this looks like in a market like Austin, where I've just come from in the last couple of weeks, is that when you order an UberX, you might have the opportunity to be matched with an autonomous vehicle that's operating around. If you're getting an UberX, Uber Comfort, Uber Green, something like that in that marketplace, and you get the option and choice to be able to choose to take an AV. The same with deliveries, with our partnership with Avride down in Avride down in Austin. You might get that option to be matched when you're getting your food delivered with a delivery sidewalk robot. And I think it goes without, I hope it goes without saying that as the largest combined mobility delivery freight platform in the world, we're pretty uniquely positioned at Uber to build this platform and offer it to all our partners for the deployment of this technology. And I think what we are learning, certainly, and I'll be quick here so we can get to the discussion, but certainly what we're learning over time, as we deploy these partnerships in cities around the world, we're increasingly convinced that this hybrid model of traditional rideshare drivers and couriers with an increasing number of sidewalk robots and AVs on the platform is the right pathway for deploying this autonomous technology to the marketplace. The reality of ride sharing and food delivery demand is that it's very cyclical, and so you're going to end up in a scenario where there are, at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, you get underutilized assets, and at 8 p.m. on a Friday, you end up with a tremendous amount of unmet consumer demand. And so having the flexibility of a network like ours is absolutely critical. There are a couple of other benefits. Let me just, if you'll indulge me, just speak very quickly to these. There are a ton of other benefits of this model. The first is, in the immediate term, certainly. The first is being able to, a couple of examples, just introducing this technology to people that otherwise might not have considered it in a low-stakes environment. Jumping on the Uber app, seeing I might be able to get matched with an AV is a real way to build customer trust and build that community of advocates for AV technology as we grow it across the marketplace. The second piece of the equation is allowing AVs to shine in the use cases that they are best equipped to shine in. And so that is, take for example, an airport trip where someone might need help with bags, or they might just want to chat with someone in a car. They can choose to take an Uber rather than an AV if they're matched with it. It gives them that optionality and choice. Again, important to building consumer trust. The last one, and this kind of piggybacks on that point about ride-sharing demand cyclicality, is the importance of the opportunity to incrementally scale AV technology over time. And so it ensures that developers don't have to kind of like pursue the unit economics, the very tough unit economics of operating a standalone ride-sharing or delivery service in a marketplace. and incrementally scaling over time. It makes sure that they're not pushing the technological deployments beyond consumer, technological, or community readiness. And that's really critical to building trust in the cities that we're operating in. Anyway, that's a little bit from us. So excited about the chat, and yeah, it's going to be a wonderful, exciting autonomous future.
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. Thank you for this invitation. For those who doesn't know, we are Avride. We're Austin-based, Texas-based developer of autonomous cars and delivery robots. We partner with Uber for both sides of our project. I mean, on a food delivery by our side of robots, and on the mobility side, which we plan to launch later this year in Dallas. We're currently present in Dallas, Austin, New Jersey, Columbus, Ohio, as well as in a number of international locations, including United Arab Emirates, Japan, and South Korea. And yeah, we have a huge experience in dealing in different environments with different type of products. We are very excited the way our partnership with Uber grows. We already cover a lot of, we do a lot of findings on the way. Every location, every operational domain is very different, and we discover something new with every basically launch. So happy to be here. Let's go ahead.
That's great. And I think one theme that I'm hearing from both of you is this hybrid network, right? Uber mobility and delivery. Serge, I was really excited to have you here because Avride is one of the few companies in the AV space that is doing both mobility and delivery with sidewalk robots and vehicles. So I might ask this question of both of you, but let's start with you, Richard. If you had to pick one thing, I think you made a very compelling case for why partners want to be on the Uber network. You gave a few different reasons, but if you had to pick one, what do you think would be your number one selling point for an AV partner?
Yeah, I think the lowest hanging fruit answer there is the scale of our operation and our existing operations. We operate in 15,000 cities around the world, 70 countries. Being able to plug into a global network that operates across mobility, delivery, and freight is pretty impressive for a whole lot of partners who are coming to us and interested in that approach.
And what does that translate into? Millions of rides and deliveries a day? Or I think sometimes people kind of forget, like that you mentioned 15,000 cities. Like I'm like, oh, that's a lot. Global, not just the US, right? That demand side, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It really allows people to, allows a partner to jump in. I think this is an important kind of concept, and Serge, you can speak to this a little bit more, no doubt, but one of the really important drivers of these shared electric automated kind of fleets that we're going to start deploying in cities around the world is going to be the unit economics of what this looks like at scale in cities, and being able to drive utilization is going to be critical for the ROI on these very expensive assets and investments that a lot of these tech partners have made. And that's where Uber really can come to the fore and help our partners on that front. That'd definitely be the number one. There are some 1A, 1Bs, but that's definitely
well,
number one.
I know, this is a tough question. I made you pick one. Serge, I'm curious, maybe you have a different answer. What do you think is the number one reason to partner with a platform like Uber from your shoes?
Well, I actually don't like when this approach called a hybrid. It's actually like the one and the only available in the market, because when you order food, you order same food, and you kind of don't care much like how it's gonna get you. You want to get it fast, you got to get it. You got to get it fast and convenient, right? So it's the same market. We're approaching like same market, and it's way better for us to go where demand already exists. So Uber for us, for our company, covers, I would say like 100%. We have some trials and deployments in other areas where Uber is not present, but that covers our biggest opportunity. For us, partnering with Uber is biggest ever opportunity that AV company may have.
And I know you mentioned Jersey as one of your fast-growing markets. Can you talk about some of the specifics of that market? Is it density? Is it other players, competition? What makes a city like Jersey? How do you pick that market, and how do you pick something that's really what defines a city that's going to get you good results, basically?
Well, our company takes its heritage from the more broad technological company, and our concept always been that automation helps to automate routine, and the more dense population they have, the more small repetitive like rides or deliveries you have, the more value automation brings you. So in Jersey, we compared to like Austin and Dallas, we found a unique combination of density of customers, like either eaters or riders in case of mobility. And in case of the food delivery, they can be like a density of merchants, like restaurants and grocery stores which source their products to our delivery network.
Got it.
I think the only two other things I might add are, I think the importance of regulatory readiness and governments cities and communities being ready for this kind of technology, and that's happening increasingly, and we want to see more of that, which is fantastic. I think the other interesting part is consumer behavior, and we've seen this in a lot of Uber Eats deployments around the world. Sometimes you are just fascinated by the fact that there is a product market fit that just takes off unexpectedly. And I think we're going to see that on the AV side as well, where there are going to be some jurisdictions where different people get different people in cities get excited about these offerings. We saw this in my hometown of Melbourne with Uber Eats, where it just took off with this bizarrely perfect product market fit where people wanted this at the right time. There was that right food culture, and it just took off in a way that we didn't expect. And I think we're going to see that on the AV side too.
I guess on that note, and I think kind of echoing some of the themes and we heard in the first panel, what are the benefits for a city, when it comes to autonomous mobility and delivery? Because I think sometimes, the different stakeholders, right, customers, like you said, Serge, they just kind of want their food, I imagine, as fast and quickly as possible. I don't know if they care who or what delivers it, but, what do you think about for cities?
I think I can cover that because we had this conversation in multiple locations, and basically the biggest benefit for the city is that they get a partner whom they can talk to and control to, because you can't talk and put some rules or restriction on every single courier. But you can do if you deal with an automated system. If you you want to limit the speed of a certain stuff on a sidewalks, you just do it. You don't need to put any restrictions or fines or whatever. You just make an agreement with a partner and you have safe, controlled environment.
Yeah, I think and that's right. I think it's about the opportunity to build trust between partners and cities, and I think that's critical. I think the other part is, cities are made up of people, and people want choice, people want options, and I think that's kind of an overlooked concept when we only talk about what the priorities for cities are, but I think that's a really important one. And we're seeing people continue to say yes to AVs when they're matched with them on our platform. People like them, people want to give it a shot and give it a try.
What are some potential negative externalities that you're thinking about? I kind of think about this in terms of, AVs, mobility, delivery, right? And there's more robots on the street, more vehicles on the road. Obviously, that's more congestion, or, maybe, I guess they're all EVs, so maybe not more pollution. But, I guess, what are you thinking about some of the potential negatives and how you might combat that, or, do the positives outweigh the negatives?
I certainly think the positives outweigh the negatives. I think and I touched on this earlier, I think it's about deploying in a way that works hand in glove with the cities in which we're operating. We're seeing this with a lot of our kind of trusted partners around the world, including AV Ride, who just work really deeply with the cities in which you're operating to launch in a scaled, cautious, and thoughtful way. And if you're doing that, you're able to achieve that. I think there's a risk, certainly, of different players and different providers just deploying a little bit more haphazardly, and we don't want to see that. We want to see real, thoughtful deployments in cities that put communities first and put the kind of our users first in these kind of cities. That's not quite what we're talking about, but yeah, that's really front and center of the risk that I see on that front, is people not thinking about it in that way and deploying a little bit more rough and tumble.
Got it. So I think we've all mentioned this term, this saying, mobility and delivery, a couple times, right? I think Uber is quite famous for that. They've got this network, of couriers, drivers, and on the customer side too. I'm curious, what do you think? I think on this very stage at Kirillov, we talked about in the past how sometimes it's challenging for couriers, to hop between, do a delivery, you've got food in the back of your car, kind of stinks up the car, then you go do a rideshare. It kind of sounds good on paper, but I think in real life is challenging. What do you think are some of the, kind of synergies? What is the real benefit for Uber in doing AV on both mobility and delivery?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it's a no-brainer. We want to be able to achieve new technological advancements on both sides of the platform, and it makes tons of sense. And if that's working with Avride and a whole lot of other partners to deliver a standalone delivery offering, that's fantastic. But also, we're doing an element of delivery work with our partnership with Waymo at the moment in Phoenix, where you can actually have food delivered as part of that platform. I think what we're going to see is a ton more integration into these kind of networks, like where, and we're seeing this in Austin, for example, on the Waymo side of our partnership, where we're doing a tremendous amount of the fleet management through third parties and partners as well, where we are doing the maintenance and cleaning and operational elements of these vehicles, which is going to be a critical part of making sure these deployments are successful around the world. And so I think that integration and double clicking and focusing on what we can actually, like, making the product experience better is going to add a lot of value.
Well, so I think I'm pretty bullish on, both AV, on mobility and delivery. Like, both are good sectors, and Uber has a big business in both. I completely agree with that part. But I guess I'm wondering, like, is there, what's one tangible benefit from, hey, we have all this investment going into, autonomous vehicles on mobility, we can take that and then plug it in delivery, or vice versa? Or, I mean, I guess the Waymo, if they're a partner on both, I mean, do you think there is something tangible? There doesn't have to be. I'm just curious if you think there is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that a little bit more. I think there are definitely technological benefits of deploying on both and slowly and gradually improving that technology over time, but that might be something Sergei might want to...
We actually think about that a little different. We don't put such a separation between mobility and delivery, because our goal as a company is to create a driver which you can apply in any platform you want. Uber uses and other delivery platforms use drivers to deliver food, same as deliver so we just think about that as we think broader. That's just logistics layer which can service different type of applications and different type of services. So in the end of the day, there's same people can work as couriers for delivering food as drivers to drive taxis, right?
The vehicle form factors that you use at Avride, what do you use for sidewalk delivery and what do you use for mobility?
Well, again, so this is just it goes down to where do you apply the AV stack. So we do have a partnership with Hyundai Motor on the car side, because creating a car is a very it's a very complicated process, right?
Sorry, what car did you say?
We use Hyundai Ioniq 5
okay,
as a
cool.
base vehicle. We just recently announced our strategic partnership with Hyundai Motor. And for the mobility side, we decided to start with robots, and there were no manufacturers at that time, so we had to create it from the scratch. And now we did that, and we produce them ourselves at our specification with our manufacturing partners. So, but basically, concept the same. In the long-term future, we would prefer to stay lean and stay mostly like a software company, relying on the partners. Yeah, as soon as there will be a manufacturer similar as automotive OEMs available for robots, we would be happy to consider that.
Got it. Makes sense. And so I think kind of going, we talked about the synergies, mobility and delivery, and I think the other aspect that, Richard, you mentioned in your opening about this hybrid network, it goes to me thinking about the hybrid network of AVs and human drivers. I might be a little biased since I started a site for drivers 11 years ago, and that's kind of my day job. But as Uber makes this big push into AV, and I think really becomes the focal point of AV, which is very impressive. How do you think about the millions of drivers and couriers? Because I think definitely, obviously the sentiment with drivers is, if there's additional competition, especially coming from a robot doesn't feel great. So how does Uber think about balancing those two cohorts where, I don't know how many Waymos are on the platform right now, but there are, I think Uber has said 3, 4, 5 million drivers and couriers around the world.
Yeah, more than that. It's such a great question. I think let me start off by saying, first and foremost, despite all the excitement and hype, we are currently operating a small number of partnerships in a whole handful of markets across the US and the Middle East. So it's not yet at a place where we are scaling to a massive point of disruption with the AV tech, which is great, and it's going to slowly move. We definitely see a position where the transportation mix and ecosystem is going to become increasingly autonomous over time, and as a result, that's going to impact our platform. From a driver and courier perspective, we certainly see a long-term future for the role of drivers and couriers on the platform. Again, this comes back to that point of choice and how individuals choose to interact with the platform, what decisions they want to make, and we certainly see a role for drivers and couriers in the long term. I can say that certainly as we start thinking about our marketplace and supply, we're planning for a future where in absolute terms, in 10 years' time, we have more drivers and couriers on the platform than we do today. And so, I mean, I'd be interested in your perspective as well, just in terms of the other opportunities, Sergei, drivers and couriers in the marketplace, because I know you folks are thinking about this really deeply.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions. So basically, we have a few takes on this. Well, first of all, everyone wants to, like, we always talk about like autonomous industry, like taking jobs, but we never say about, we always often forget about autonomous industry creating jobs. Yeah, so autonomous industry, like in the midterm, will be creating a lot of jobs as well. That's the first thing. Second thing, what we see, especially in the mature markets, there is such a shortage of drivers and couriers, so that adding autonomous deliveries and rides will help to grow the services rather than just substituting what the drivers that already in the platforms. And I think that will just continue because we didn't use the entire potential of that at all. So we really think that it's like too early to worry about that.
So, I mean, introducing AVs, you basically are saying that, I mean, I guess they have to be cheaper though, right? Do the deliveries, do the rides have to be cheaper in order to induce more demand and then, provide more opportunity? You think there'll be more opportunities for workers or about the same?
Yeah, so for now we are hiring hundreds of people to deploy our products. So for now we're creating way more jobs compared to.
What kind of jobs are you creating?
A lot of them. We hire drivers, we hire operators, software developers, engineers.
And even as we scale this offering in Austin, where we've got remote operators who need to look after things. We've got people looking after maintenance, cleaning, manufacturing, and like developing the actual vehicles themselves. Data is critical, and make sure we're transferring that and doing that the right way. Cleaning, charging. There are a tremendous number of opportunities that are growing out of that deployment alone. And you think about that at scale in different markets around the world, there are going to be opportunities at the same time, whilst also maintaining a consistent and growing kind of number of drivers, traditional rideshare drivers and couriers on the platform at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess so when I hear about, I think I agree that there's going to be lots of other types of jobs created. If I'm someone who's been a rideshare driver for 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, I probably don't want to go and clean vehicles. I might not want to be retrained and do a remote operator. So what do you sort of tell those drivers, or how do you think about, I guess, maybe absolute value, right? There might be more jobs, but you might have to expect some change in the meantime?
I think we're still learning with these deployments. Again, these are a handful of deployments in key markets, and we're still doing a lot of learning as we roll out these deployments in these markets. I definitely think what we're saying to a ton of different drivers is that there is going to continue to be a role for drivers and couriers on the platform despite the increase in the number of AVs. There are still going to be roles for them to play moving people from A to B and moving food from A to B. I think that's still going to be part of the network for the foreseeable future.
Got it. So, I mean, we've talked about how AVs, might potentially affect cities, how they might affect drivers and couriers. What about other, I guess you would say, constituents of cities, customers, users? Are there any other groups that you think, I know you shared a couple examples, Serge, of your, robots kind of going around town and having some, challenges, whether it's, pushing buttons or, crossing the streets. What other groups you think, might be affected, and how are you thinking about those groups?
Let me just start here before you dive in. I think this is a really interesting space, this intersection of consumer behavior and human interaction with technology. And I think you do start with talking about, it's very easy to talk about the kind of nuisance elements, someone putting a cone on top of a LiDAR detector and things like that. But as we've seen with e-bikes and e-scooters, that level of novel interest and disruption kind of dies off pretty quickly. People get sick of it. People get bored of that kind of thing. I think where it is going to get really interesting is the kind of decision decisions that consumers are making over time. Like, is there going to become a growing number of people who say, actually, you know what, I'm really interested in a human driver today for reason X that we haven't quite contemplated yet. I think that's going to be a really interesting layer of the discussion. I think that's where a huge amount of new learning is going to come over the next couple of years as we're deploying.
I mean, have you seen any use cases, you know, from the partnerships you've been doing where, you know, hey, maybe customers are actually choosing, you know, a human driver? I guess maybe an obvious one is airport, you know, I need help with bags and things like that.
An obvious one in the immediate term is an airport trip where someone just needs a little bit of extra help getting from A to B, people with additional mobility needs choosing human drivers. But again, this is not to say there's not a tremendous amount of excitement in those communities for autonomous trips as well. It's just, it's balanced out to a degree. I think the same thing goes for food delivery to a degree, and we were talking about this when it comes to elevators and trying to find solutions there. But there is certainly in my experience and a few of my friends and colleagues' experiences, when one's ordering chicken nuggets at 2 a.m. in the morning and wants them delivered home, there's a reticence to come downstairs in the building, go outside in your bathrobe and enter a code on the robot so it opens up. There are still going to be use cases for the foreseeable future. That's just a particularly personal one.
Serge or Richard, what do you think are some of those perfect use cases where, you know, a delivery robot can handle this better than any other vehicle, human form factor out there on the road, whether it's, you know, delivery or, you know, on the mobility ride side?
Well, as I said, it's probably the biggest opportunity with the shortest and most frequent type of deliveries. Actually, usually drivers and the couriers don't like such orders because they are not like, they're like too cheap, too cheap for them, and we are not like they would be happy to refuse to deliver them.
Yeah, I definitely have heard that from couriers where I kind of like the idea. I won't throw any restaurants in LA under the bus, but there's definitely some where, you know, a lot of traffic in Santa Monica or it's very no parking, right? So I do imagine that, you know, maybe there's specific types of trips, types of restaurants, types of frequency where, you know, that is best, you know, honestly, the human drivers or couriers don't like that. That's where a robot kind of fits in perfectly.
I have another example as like a community, we call it like a campus-like delivery zones, which includes like university campuses. So for example, we are deployed in the Columbus in Ohio State University, and there were no couriers at all there, just because for the normal courier, normal platforms, the density of orders is not there. Students do not appreciate tips because it doubles the cost of delivery. And by just introducing robots, we brought there a very affordable way to get their food when they're, you know, studying, when they don't want to go out. And it's actually probably for now one of our most successful projects because our robots doing there like from 11 to 1,400 deliveries a day, which is like huge.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, no, super interesting. I think that makes a lot of sense. Richard, any final comments before we wrap here?
No, other than to say, like, you know, this space is constantly evolving, and I'm really excited. Certainly in my job leading autonomous public policy, I think this is an area where we are excited to continue to work hand in glove with cities to kind of in communities to get these regulations right, as we were talking about, but also make sure that we're building social license to operate in these communities. And I think that's going to be the next layer of these challenges as we start getting to scale, like what are we comfortable with as a society? And I think I'm just so excited about what this looks like, and the technology, if you haven't had a chance to play with it and experience it, touch and feel, it is absolutely extraordinary. So including Avride's wonderful stuff.
I don't really have much to add, but actually, yeah, so we are just, I think we should just move forward, try new locations, and then we will understand the new challenges and new opportunities here.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate Richard Willder from Uber and Sergei Kirillov from Avride. Let's give them a big round of applause. All right, thanks, guys.